I'm Osmaan, and I have been running my business called Rapid Transformation for over 9 years now. Time does fly, and I absolutely love working with individuals to basically help them figure out what do they want to do, and then actually going out and doing it.
Amazing. That's really rewarding a bit as well to
Absolutely,
help people.
especially getting to see people where they were a bit stuck or they weren't really sure about what they wanted to do, and actually then seeing the results at the end of it or the journeys that they went on to get those results as well. So I do typically work a lot more these days with those that are going down the entrepreneurial or kind of business owner track, but ultimately whenever we create any change, it has an impact on all areas of our life, which just makes it even more rewarding.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like something you can apply to every area of your life, as you
Yeah,
said.
definitely. Absolutely.
Amazing. Brilliant. So, so I'd like to talk to you about NLP. Something if we start with how did you discover it and how did it come into your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So, have you ever had one of those moments where you're having a conversation with someone and they're asking you questions and they're making you really think about what it is that you even think about the subject? Well, takes me back to when I first had my proper job after graduating. I worked in Marks and Spencers as a HR manager, and I was on a road trip with the head of HR, Jenny, and we were in a car on a journey from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and Jenny was asking me some really difficult questions, but in a way, and it was a very natural way. So she was asking me what I thought the capabilities were of my store management team that I was managing in in my new store, and they'd been there for many years before I was there. So I was kind of the new guy. So I was kind of thinking, right, what's the right thing to say? The political kind of answer.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, she was just in a really nice and gentle way was asking me more questions and another question. And before I knew it, all this stuff was coming out, and I was like, I didn't even know I thought that. So I turned around and I was like, Jenny, how did you do that? I mean, and she mentioned three little letters to me. She's like, I went on an NLP course many years ago, and it just made me really think about what people say and what they don't say, and I went, ah. So that was the first time I heard of NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and then she said something else really interesting. She said her and two colleagues within the Scotland team, they'd all went on the same course. And then when I thought about it, I thought whenever I saw Jenny and these other two colleagues, there was something different about them. The way that they acted or the way that they approached situations, and I thought there's something to learn here. So fast forward a couple of years later, I then changed jobs. I was working in the finance industry down in London, and I was lucky enough to have a budget to do any kind of training course that had a business benefit. And I was sitting at my desk, and one of my colleagues was sitting next to me saying, I think I'll go on an advanced Excel spreadsheet course. And I'm like, no, that's not for me. And Jenny's little voice popped into my head, and it just said NLP. Sounds a bit wacky, but literally I hadn't thought about it for a while. And then I thought, and I started to Google it, and before you knew it, I was then looking at what you could do and how it could be helpful. Because I thought, well, if I really looked up to these people that were doing really well in their career, I wanted to think about how can I role model them, and that's kind of where I went on my first NLP course, which was 7 days long, and the rest is really history from there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So when did you start a business almost straight away with it? Or?
Yeah, well, overall, I went on the course for real kind of business purposes. I wanted to be a better leader, I wanted to be a better manager within the role. So I had no ideas or goals about having my own business. But the whole point of NLP is, it stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. And for me, NLP is ultimately about, understanding how do we think, how do we feel, and how do we act. And then looking at, well, because we live our lives on autopilot. So a lot of times we just go down a route or make decisions based upon what we think we should do. And when I went on that NLP course, that was the first time that I really had that chance to step back and go, well, what do I really want to do?
Yeah.
I know I've always been around like focusing about helping people. That's why I went into a HR role initially. I love working with people, I love getting the best out of people. But quite often when I was going for those jobs, even in HR, I'd get there and I'd start to go, is this it? And it's quite scary when you have that idea of what you think you want your career to be. I was one of those guys that you thought you go to primary school, you go to high school, you go to university, you get a job, you climb that corporate ladder. And don't get me wrong, I loved a lot of working in the corporate world, but when I was actually there and I learned about NLP, and they were all NLP for me is all about quick and fast tools and techniques that help you create positive change. That's why I call my business rapid transformation, because it is all about quick change and big results as well. So when I was there, it got me to think about, I wish I knew some of these tools and techniques when I was working in my previous jobs, working with other people, but also for myself. So I left that course feeling more confident, feeling more understanding who I was, what I wanted to do, and it was like a new path had opened up. It was like I could go and continue to climb up the corporate ladder, and that could have worked really well. But then it was like, there's another option here where I think I can help other people and do what I want to do using a different kind of route. And that's the route that I took over 9 years ago now, and there's been no looking back.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So do you think it's important to then switch off autopilot basically, and why?
Absolutely. I think it's one of these things that's a kind of a bit of a conundrum, right? Because we all live in autopilot, and you wouldn't want to switch off it completely, because otherwise, we don't tell ourselves you need to breathe, you need to blink, how do you walk across the road, how do you function? So autopilot behaviours work really well for us, because otherwise we couldn't even function. But it's when we get to the point when we're on autopilot and we're not really thinking or making those decisions, and especially if it's taking us in a different direction. And I always get that feeling, or when I work with clients, when you're kind of off the kind of off that path, when you start to feel like, is this it, or things just aren't flowing in the right possible way, that you think there must be more. So that's the point when it gives you that chance to go, right, no, let me stop and let me flick off autopilot switch to look at, well, what am I thinking, what am I doing, and how am I acting? Because quite often we then can make small changes, and those small changes can create rapid transformations. It could be in our habits, it could be in the beliefs that we have, it could just be even the way that we think about something. And once we adjust that, that's kind of where effectively you've reprogrammed your mind, you've reprogrammed how you approach it, and then you kind of want to go back on autopilot, but in a new way. I mean, it's like you've upgraded the software that's in your mind. So it is that kind of balance between being on autopilot and taking yourself off, but then when you go back, you're kind of at a different level, or you're functioning from a different kind of code or different kind of rule book.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I can see it. It's like leveling your autopilot settings.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because in a lot of times, and that's what I love about it from NLP. It could be, there's obviously so many tools and techniques, and that's what a lot of people kind of associate NLP with. It's like how it can help you change the way that you experience phobias and fears, beliefs that you have, your habits. It can break patterns really, from nail biting to feeling really kind of nervous during presentations. So all of that is amazing, and don't get me wrong, I use all those tools and techniques for myself and with my clients, but ultimately, NLP for me is, it's more about the mindset, it's about the tools and the themes around it that just make you think, well, I am working on autopilot, and is it working for me? And if it's not, great, I can do something about it, rather than walking through life thinking it's just the way it is. Do you know what I mean?
I think that'd be awful to go back to just thinking this is how it is now, which is gonna be how it is forever.
Definitely. And a lot of who we are is shaped by our past, both in a positive way and not so positive way as well, because we go through life and we delete, we distort, and we generalize everything that's happened based upon our past memories, our past decisions, what's actually important to us, our values, even the way that we kind of relate to time. So how we think about goals. Like, I'm a firm believer of goal setting, but how you set those goals make a big difference, because that then dictates how you see things and the opportunities that you they're always there. But quite often we can be walking through life like blinkered and not seeing them until you go, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is how I can do it in the best possible way. And then just things start to kind of come up for you where you go, wow, this is kind of easier, but it's because you've actually taken control and you're focused on what you want to do as well.
Yeah, wow. So do you have any tips to share of like how to set goals, I guess, to achieve them?
Absolutely. I think the key thing, and I'll take it back, I'll share something that I share with all my clients. It's what I call the rapid transformation formula, right? And it's simple because it applies in all areas of our life. If we can get three components working really well, then it just helps us in so many ways. The first is the design, right? So we need to understand what it is that we want to achieve, okay, or experience. And so goal setting fits in there. So you would never dream, would you, of just thinking, right, I am going to build a house. And then you would just start to go, right, yeah, I'm going to have a house with, a few bedrooms, and, we'll start building, okay? But so many people out there, they take action really fast. I'm all about taking fast action. But if you don't know what it is that you're designing, if you're not really clear about what your goals are, the time scales, what you want it to look like, or even feel like, then we could be taking action, but the wrong type of action. But it goes more than that for me. You need to make sure that your design fits in your values of what's important to you. Because far too often when I'm working with clients, they're designing a life that actually isn't what they want. So you actually need to understand, what are your values, so that we can kind of make sure your design is kind of aligned with that. Even your talents, and I use a lot of personality profiles such as wealth dynamics and talent dynamics, because quite often the way that you design what you want, both in a business or a career or life, can massively be shaped by your personality as well. So that's the first thing. So you need to understand how clear is your design. But then the second part is about mindsets. And that's all about, how are you thinking about things? What are your beliefs doing to you? Are they helping you, or are they holding you back? And I'm not one of these guys that's all about just be positive and be confident, because I'm sure you'll know as well, there's so many people out there that you say to them how's things, and they go, oh, amazing, it's fantastic. And then you look at the results, or they tell you about the results, and they're going round in circles, or they're not getting anywhere really that they want to, because they might be really positive, believing everything's possible, but they don't have the right design, or they don't have a design, so therefore they're just motivated going round in circles. So that's why design's important, mindset's important, but the third part is like actually equally important, but the easiest thing to do, that's the strategies. So that's when you've got the right design, you've got the right mindsets, then you can start to think about, well, what are the habits or the actions that are going to help me make that happen? Or when you're taking action and you're going, this isn't really working, or something's not, getting me the results, it gets you that chance to look at, right, what can I do to change my actions? Because, the first sign of badness, as Albert Einstein said, is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. But quite often it's down to our habits. It's down to, well, just because we've done it that way in the past, we think we have to continue to do it that way. But when you look at it, it gives you a chance to go, no, I need to adopt my strategies, or look at it in a way that'll work better for me. There's so many business owners out there, I'm sure you'll agree, that you can ask them the same question, and you'll get 8 different or more kind of ways to get success, or how they define success. Well, otherwise we'd run around like a headless chicken going, oh, well, Richard Branson says do it that way, and Oprah Winfrey says do it that way. But you kind of need to know, well, what's your personality, to then allow you to go, what's the strategies that will work the best for you, to then be able to go, well, it doesn't matter if so-and-so is saying do it that way, I'll get better results by doing it in this way because of the strategies and habits that will work the best. So that's my kind of my long answer to the key element of, if you understand, right, what's my design, my mindset, and my strategies, it's really valuable. So if there's any moment where you're thinking something's not working, or you've got that feeling of there's just something that's not going as fast as I want it to go, it gives you a chance to go, well, where do I need to put my attention? Is it the design? Because sometimes we've outgrown our design, or our design's changed. Or you might go, no, I'm really clear about that. It's my mindsets that are holding me back, or it's my strategies that are holding me back. Or it could be a component of all three, but then it allows you to then go, right, let me do something about it, rather than feeling overwhelmed, or just feeling like there's a lot happening, but I'm not really in control.
Wow. Oh, I'm processing it. Oh, wow. Okay, so I guess, do you want to explain what NLP is and how it's used?
So NLP for me, it's like having an instruction manual to your mind. It allows you to understand, well, as I say, how you think, how you feel, and how you act. And that then encompasses everything from what's happening in here, to our habits that we have on a daily basis, to how we communicate with ourselves and other people as well. So it is all about, as I say, taking you off that autopilot settings a lot of times to go, I want to change the way I feel about that, or I want to to go after something that might be new. But how do I do that? By actually reprogramming some of the old habits or events that have happened in our past that sometimes feels like it's baggage that's holding us back. But the cool thing about NLP, from everything I've learned over the years, both in the corporate world and my continuing learning, is it actually is like having tools and techniques that can create changes really quickly. All the ways, like I said about phobias, I've worked with hundreds of people over the years that have had specific phobias that have been really, held them back from, flying to doing presentations to all sorts of animals, even to things like cotton wool balls. So it doesn't matter what the phobia is, but what really helps me understand that is, and the big light bulb I got is, if you can work with someone using these tools that have held on to something like a phobia for 20, 30 years, and within like half an hour they can feel different about it, they can act differently about it, well, that's what I call quick wins. And if you could do that in a phobia, you can use that on all areas of life. Do you know what I mean? On our habits, in our business, in our relationships, and ultimately it's about taking control. So that's it in a nutshell.
So, so aside from the techniques, how could you incorporate NLP themes and I don't know, how could you practice it in your lifestyle every day?
Absolutely. So for me, NLP has got all manner of tools and techniques that can help you communicate better and create changes quickly as well. But ultimately, the themes and the key mindsets are the key part. So for the big part of NLP is it's about taking control. So in any situation, they could be in the cause side of the equation to go, right, what can I do to move things forward? Or you could be in the effect side, coming up with all the excuses about why something can't happen or how it's hard, whether it's economy or because of your upbringing, all that kind of element. But when you ultimately kind of take control, that's what NLP is for me. It's about going, okay, what can I do right now that's going to help me be in the cause side to create a change to help me move things forward. And that could be really empowering. It allows you to understand that actually you are in control. You get to make decisions. So that small mindset can apply in all areas of our life as well. And also like our beliefs, as I say, when you understand, are they working for you? Well, perfect. Make sure that you're using them to your best ability. But if there's things that you go, I can't do that, or I wish I could do that, that's the kind of key trigger to go, when did you decide that you can't? And as soon as you ask yourself that question, it opens up a whole range of possibilities to go, actually, it doesn't mean that that's true, because you can actually let go of it, and then it opens up a whole new path of opportunities that's out there for you as well.
Wow. Yeah, could you explain the cause and effect thing again? Because I remember that was really powerful.
Absolutely. So this is like thinking about in any given situation, you can be on either side of the equation, okay? And it can be quite a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because sometimes it's easier to be on the effect side. This is about, say for example, let's look in a business context. You might be sitting there going, my sales are down, right? Being on the effect side of the equation could be, that's because of the weather. Do you know what I mean? It's been a real, rainy season. We're in Scotland here, so any sunshine is like a kind of an exception here. But a lot of times people go, oh, we've had a really bad summer, or it's because of the government, or because of the VAT rate, or whatever that might be. But what that does is literally, it's like you take away the responsibility and you put it away from you. You go, because of all these other reasons. And therefore, as soon as we start to think about, all these other factors that are at play, it can stop us from actually feeling like we're in control of changing it. So that's what I mean by sometimes it's easier to be on the effect side, because you can go, well, it's not just me. Other people are also finding it quite hard. But is that going to change anything? No, right? But that's where in any given situation you can go, well, okay, no matter what excuses or reasons there are, how can I get onto the cause side? This is about me having choices or focusing on the results. It might be a case of, okay, so for me to get on the cause side, I need to adapt my business, because, right, yes, sales have went down, but, well, how am I responsible for that? Well, I've actually not been proactive, okay? Or my products are a bit stale now, it's not what my customers want, so I need to adapt, I need to repackage them, I need to remarket them in a slightly different way. But as soon as you get onto that side of the equation, it's important to feel that you are in control. You can then go, I I could do something. Whereas when you're on the effect side, it can feel like there's no control. It's like, well, I'm at the mercy of all these other reasons. But that's why I encourage myself as much as I can. And I'm a human being. Naturally, there's times where I'll go, oh, if only. But the difference is when you know about cause and effect, it's harder to stay on the effect side because you're aware of it. So you might wallow in there for a minute or two, but you want to then give yourself that kick to go, okay, right, so what am I going to do about it? And that's when you move on to the cause side. Richard Bandler, who's one of the co-creators of NLP, he talks about it in terms of who's driving the bus. Okay, so when you're on the effect side, it's like you're a passenger. And when you're a passenger, you're sitting there, you're at the mercy of the timetable, the route, the driver, the passengers you're sitting next to as well. But when you're the actual driver of it, you're in control. You can go, right, what am I going to do? What's the route I'm going to take? How fast, obviously within the speed limit, am I going to be driving? Am I going to take the express route? Who am I going to like to come on my car with me? Do you know what I mean? Or on the bus? So you're very much on control. So it's all about helping yourself be the driver of your life rather than be the passenger or the bystander.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. So do you have anything else to add to that or anything?
I think it's about, all I'd say is, from understanding and using NLP now for over like 10 years, we always go through different changes, okay? And that's the whole point about understanding who we are. So like I said, I never thought I was going to have my own business, right? But it was once I kind of got to understand what I really want to do, understand what my goals are, and even taking control of going, I actually can choose what I want to do. It's not dictated by what the corporate ladder says or that company says or what my parents or people around me think I should do as well. And it can open up the door to then go, what's next? But once you open up the door, the exciting thing is things are constantly always changing and evolving, and you just need to take stock of where you are and adapt with that as well. So I'll give you an example. I started to have my business, which was very much focused around NLP. I was up and down the country, that's obviously where I got to meet you, training other people as well to be able to use these tools and techniques using the formal NLP qualification system, the certification. So I'd be delivering 7-day NLP courses, practitioner level, then master practitioner level, and all the kind of the intermediate levels in between. And I loved it. But after about 4 or 5 years, I kept thinking, right, I've done this now. What's next? What can I do? And there was a part of me that was going, oh, well, no, you've decided to do this. This is what you do for life. And it was a bit of a challenge for me, and it made me have to use all my NLP tools to go, okay, well, just because I decided, to leave the corporate world to start an NLP business, it doesn't mean that business has to be static in that decision that I made. And then I started to understand, well, what is it that I love doing? Who is it that I loved working with even more? Where did I think I could add as much value as possible? And that's where I started to know I loved working with people that were leaving especially a corporate or a traditional world and to start their own adventure. Obviously, something that I can relate to because I had been there. So I started to think about, well, how do I even create a rapid transformation in my business? And a lot of that was about reshaping it, redefining it. So I still use NLP in everything that I do, but what I'm doing now is very different from what I was doing, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
But I couldn't have even made that as a goal 9 years ago because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it was part of that experience of going and doing it and taking action that then allowed me to then start to go, okay, well, now where I am. One of my mentors, Michelle, always said to me at one of the workshops I went to in Bali was, what's your best thinking right now? And once you understand that, and that's had a big impact on me, it helps me go, well, what's the decision that I'm going to make right now that's the best thinking right now? So even in my business right now, I'm always thinking about, well, what's the best decision and my best thinking right now to help me with that next phase? Does that mean that what I'm going to do over the next year will be what I do for the next 20 years? Not at all. But it means that I can allow things to be more organic, to be more in flow, and still embrace that every time that you move forward, you'll always have better quality problems to solve because you'll be going, right, what's next? How do I push things forward? What do I want to do? So I suppose that's my biggest learning that I've had is that once you create a change or when you've created a transformation, some people think, oh, sit back and relax now. But actually, from my experience, it's not, because you're on that constant kind of, evolution of that roller coaster going, okay, right, I've done that now, what's next? And that's why we always need to understand, what is our next goals? How does it help us define who we want to be and what we want our businesses or our life to be about, so that we're constantly moving forward, so that we don't get bored, we don't get stale, but also we don't get overwhelmed as well, trying to figure out everything right now. It's just about what's our best thinking right now to help us move forward.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, because I guess we're different all the time with all the new information that's coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we just need to adapt and be very much more present as well.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was great.
Just rambling away there.
No, well, it was really good content, really meaningful and powerful words. Thank you.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
So is there enough for that from both videos, or do you want, is there,
I think
do you want to do another one separate?
Yeah, another
Cool,
one separate, please. Yeah. Just put that. I had this horrible feeling when I was sitting there, because I didn't, I heard it beep, but I didn't look at it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I really hope that was recording. Oh, this one. Oh, no, it is recording. Right, so yeah, I think this one, that one. And then, well, yeah, one of the people that I'm hopefully going to interview in Sweden, he's a street performer. So he sort of runs around in his pants in Times Square.
Fantastic.
And he's got really great kind of mindset of just basically trying to make people happy and help people like realise that they can be happy, and